Hey, I'm Todd. Thanks for choosing to watch my video, and if you would subscribe it, like it, all that stuff, that'd be great. Otherwise, enjoy the video, and I hope it gives you the information you need and is helpful to you. Take care. Rear shocks in a 1996 Dodge Dakota. Fairly easy. Take this bolt out of here, nut and bolt. And the tricky part is up here is probably 2 bolts and nuts here. Just because you got to reach up here over the top to hold the bolts in place while you trim the nuts. But probably it's just going to be like a 1/2 inch or 13 millimeter wrench up there holding it in place. Just showing the setup I'm using. So I got a 13 millimeters, probably 13 millimeter or 1/2 inch. It's a wobbly socket, but I don't need that. And a gun. Up here, got one off. And then my wrench is straight up top here. You can see it inside here. Just an open end wrench. This is actually 1/2 inch. They all seem a little bit loose, but it's working for me. So I'm just up there holding it still. And I hit it with the gun and zip the bolts out. Looks like a 10 millimeter. How about that? Well, there you go, assuming it's original equipment. Don't really know, but 10 millimeter and 13 millimeter for those. Pretty easy though. So we'll just take the other, we'll just leave the other bolt up there. Collapsing the shock because I can. Doesn't really spring back up very much, does it? I'll take this off next. Going with a 19 millimeter wrench and a 19 millimeter socket. A couple things you probably do want to jack it up right here on the flat spot on the pumpkin. Maybe use a hammer, maybe, and tap these out a little bit to make it easier. But we'll throw the new shock in now. New shock. Collapse it down a little bit. This one's expanding. I'm going to bolt this up first. Up on the top, part number is the same for the left and the right. Because this would actually be nice if it's at an angle, but it's not at an angle. So we'll bolt this up first and then we can maybe rotate it to get the other end in. So we got them started. We're probably going to push up on the shock absorber. Push up on it to get it into this spot here. There we go. Perfect wedge. It'll kind of hold itself in place. Line up the bolt hole. Put the bolt through. Alright, all nuts and bolts are started. Everything is right to tighten, left to loosen. That's righty-tighty, lefty-loosey, lefty-loosey, righty-tighty. So we'll tighten that up. I'll even maybe give you some torque specs for those babies. So, there we go. Let's do the same for the other side. Reach up here. It might be a little trickier because I think you got to reach up over here next to the spare tire, but should be able to do that without too much problem. maybe even around the frame here. But it's the same procedure. Hang tight for torque specs. 65 foot-pounds, 65 foot-pounds, and 20 foot-pounds for those. Those 10 millimeter bolts actually had some little teeth on the washer and kind of didn't really need to hold it. I did hold one side, but the other side I just took my gun to it and zipped up and tightened up, so may or may not need the 10 millimeter bolts to, or 10 millimeter wrench to tighten them up. But you have it to take it apart, so there you go. So here's a little tip, see if it works for you when you're taking these apart and putting it together. So I'm using my gun. This will help if you have a gun. To grab this and twist it so you're applying leverage to the bolt one way or the other. So I was able to grab this and twist it and zip these nuts off on both sides, and then twist this with one hand and start the nut on each side. And then I held this and used the gun and zipped them up tight. So never had to use a 10 millimeter wrench. So that's my tip for rear shocks. Hope it works for you. And some spray lubricant is nice too.